they don't make music like they used to. From the integrated news team of the Presidential Broadcast Service, here now is news you can use.
A slowdown in inflation was recorded at 3.7% in June. This was lower than the 3.9 headline inflation rate in the country in May, equivalent to 3.5% average inflation from January to June. PSA Chief and National Statistician Claire Dennis Mapa says the major causes of the slowdown in inflation are the slow movement of electricity rate and gasoline prices. Restaurant and accommodation services also contributed to the slowdown. A slowdown on inflation was also recorded on rice, flour, and milk. Up to 500 beneficiaries of the DSWD in Quezon City have completed their Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program or 4Ps. The recognition was held at the Quezon City Hall that was attended by Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte. The graduation ceremony aimed to recognize and give importance to the efforts of the 4Ps beneficiaries who are capable of being self-sufficient due to a stable source of income. Mayor Belmonte also congratulated the families who became part of the program for 8 years. The beneficiaries will undergo various programs and services if needed based on the SWD's monitoring and assessment. I'm Edwin for News You Can Use.
Keeping you informed and up to date from the Presidential Broadcast Service News Center of Radyo Pilipinas, Republika FM1 and Capital FM2.
Sinigang. Magandang tanghali, ka-winner. Ito ang mga balita ngayon. Iminungkahi ni Senator Francis Tolentino na ilipat na lang ang Manila Zoo sa lokasyon nito o mula sa lokasyon nito sa Malate, Maynila papunta sa Masungi Geo Reserve sa Baras, Rizal. Ito'y upang mas maalagaan umano at mamuhay ang mga hayop malapit sa kanilang natural habitat. Giniit niya na nakakulong sa maliliit na espasyo lamang ang mga hayop kung saan exposed din ito sa ingay, init at polusyon. Samantala, ka-winner, inanunsyo ng Silay Heritage na ninakaw ang obra ni Fernando Amorsolo na Mango Harvesters mula sa Hofilenya Museum sa Silay City, Negros Occidental. Batay sa mga ulat, kinuha ito ng mga turistang bumisita sa naturang museo noong nakalipas na Miyerkules, July 3. At ka-winner, hindi na makapapasok sa Paris 2024 Olympics ang Gilas Pilipinas. Ito ay matapos matalo kontra Brazil sa semifinals ng FIBA Olympic Qualifying Tournament. Ka-winner, magandang tanghali. Iyan ang mga balita ngayon.
Iwas sa sakit. Narito na ang i-update sa oras na ito. At yan ang i-update sa oras na ito. For more updates, bistahin lang ang rmn.ph.
20 million pesos na gastos sa pagkain para sa SONA ay dinepensa ng Kamara. Tama lang at hindi raw kalabisan ng 20 million pesos na gagastusin ng House of Representatives sa pagkain para sa ikatlong SONA ni Pangulong Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. sa joint session ng dalawang kapulungan sa July 22. Ayon kay House Secretary General Reginald Velasco, saklaw nito ang breakfast, lunch, dinner at merienda para sa lahat na may partisipasyon sa SONA, kasama rin mga police officers na magbabantay sa paligid ng Batasan Complex. Paliwanag ni Velasco, daan-daan ng security personnel na magpapatupad ng seguridad para sa SONA habang nasa 2,000 hanggang 3,000 naman ang mga empleyado ng Kamara. Kasama rin dito ang nasa 2,000 bisita na nagkumpirma na dadalo sa SONA na siyang pinakamataas na bilang sa kasaysayan ng bansa. Bukod sa mga mababatas at mga senador, kasama rin daw sa mga imbitado ang mga opisyal ng pamahalaan, mga miyembro ng diplomatic community at mga dating Pangulo, ikalawang Pangulo at iba pang dating matataas na opisyal na bansa. Binanggit pa nito na 1,814 lang na mga upuan ang available sa loob ng plenary hall ng Kamara, kaya ilang kwarto ang gagamitin sa loob ng Batasan bilang viewing rooms para sa mahigit na 300 guests.
At yan ang i-update sa oras na ito. For more updates, bistahin lang ang rmn.ph.
This is VOA News. Tommy McNeil. out to signing a deal with the devil. That's the position of Mikhailo Podolyak, a top advisor to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. In an Associated Press interview in Kyiv, Podolyak said a deal would only buy time for Vladimir Putin to strengthen his position. He says he wants political elites to realize that a deal where Russia does not lose or bear responsibility for mass crime is like signing a ticket for the continuation of the war on a wider scale. Asked about U.S. politics, the Ukrainian says he does not expect changes in relation to Ukraine, but wishes certain decisions would be sped up. Podolyak says Kamala Harris reacts hard enough to today's challenges and that Donald Trump is seen as a nonconformist. I'm Jennifer King.
And since the refugees fled earlier this week, the president said that Mexico is a large country. I'm Tommy McNeil, VOA News.
This is VOA News on RJ100 FM nationwide.
This is VOA News. I'm Michael Brown. Britain's Labour Party is headed for a landslide victory in the parliamentary election. An exit poll suggested centre-left Labour leader Keir Starmer will be the country's next prime minister. The historic defeat for Conservatives will likely spark a contest to replace Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. Aman Menon, a professor of European politics and foreign affairs at King's College in London, says the country needs more stability.
We've got used to politics as pantomime, a very unstable Conservative Party with lots of infighting, with lots of ministerial churn, with no stability. I think we're going to have to get used again to relatively stable government, with ministers staying in power for quite a long time, and with government able to think beyond the very short term as to medium-term objectives. Now, it's an open question as to whether that makes a huge difference in terms of policy outcomes, but the style of governing, I think, is going to be very different to that which we've got used to over the last decade or so.
AP correspondent Ben Thomas reports as questions swirl about the viability of President Biden's re-election campaign, California's governor is voicing support.
I'm not going anywhere. President Biden at a July 4th barbecue on the White House South Lawn. But sources tell AP his re-election bids under great pressure, with some financial backers canceling fundraisers.
Character. Decent.
California Governor Gavin Newsom offered a forceful defense at a Democratic event in Michigan, maintaining President Biden has the record and energy to win.
Look at his schedule. Look at the fundraising things that you don't see. All that work, the work you're doing behind the scenes, the phone calls you're making all times of night, the alliance management, everything's doing prepared for NATO this week.
And the character to lead.
God bless. I like what a president acknowledges their humor.
Newsom's been mentioned as a possible replacement if Biden ends his campaign, and was asked whether he would back Vice President Kamala Harris.
I'm not going to play into that. Joe Biden's our president. He said he's all in. I doubled down, said I'm all in.
Ben Thomas, Washington.
And for more news, please join us at voanews.com. This is VOA News.
You've been listening to VOA News on RJ100 FM nationwide.
The BBC in London going direct to RJ100 FM in Manila and throughout the Philippines.
BBC News with David Harper. Ukraine's president has vowed to hold Moscow accountable for an airstrike that killed more than 50 people in the city of Poltava. Volodymyr Zelensky said that efforts were continuing to try to free survivors from the rubble of the military facility destroyed in the Russian missile attack. Mexico's Supreme Court judges have gone on strike as Congress begins debating a controversial reform of the judicial system. Thousands of court workers have already begun industrial action against the proposal to elect justices by popular vote. The New York governor's former deputy chief of staff, Linda Sun, has pleaded not guilty in a Brooklyn court to charges that she secretly acted as a Chinese agent. Prosecutors allege she helped Chinese officials enter the U.S. unlawfully. The U.S. has charged several Hamas leaders in connection with the group's attack on Israel last October that left around 1,200 people dead. 6 Hamas members are being indicted. Brazil and Colombia have expressed profound concern over an arrest warrant issued against Venezuela's opposition presidential candidate Edmundo González. It's the strongest statement yet by the two countries' left-wing leaders who've traditionally supported President Nicolas Maduro. The Philippines says that a former mayor who went into hiding after being accused of links to a Chinese crime syndicate has been arrested in Indonesia. A warrant was issued for Alice Guo's arrest in July. She was being investigated following a raid in March on an online scam centre in her hometown. Conservationists in Britain have teamed up with the online trading giant eBay to tackle the illegal sale of wild plants from around the world. They say the trade damages ecosystems and deprives local communities of their livelihoods. An ancient archway in Rome marking the military triumph of a 4th century emperor has been damaged by lightning. The Arch of Constantine stands near the Colosseum in the Italian capital. Conservationists say all the fragments have been recovered and the monument will be repaired. BBC News.
The BBC World News heard live nationwide on RJFM News and Public Affairs.
Narito ang balita ngayon. Posibleng parusahan ng mga pulis na nakikipag-ugnayan sa International Criminal Court kaugnay ng kaso ni dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. Ayon kay Philippine National Police spokesperson Colonel Jean Fajardo, may kakaharaping parusa ang isang active personnel na aniyay hindi sumusunod sa chain of command. Binigyan din ni Fajardo na dapat humingi muna ng permiso mga pulis sa mas mataas na otoridad kalintulad sa tuwing nagsasagawa ng operasyon. Nauna nang sinabi ni dating Senador Antonio Trillanes IV na nakipag-ugnayan na ang ICC sa mahigit 50 aktibo at dating opisyal ng pulisya na sangkot sa kasong crime against humanity laban kay Duterte. Pinabulaanan naman ni Fajardo ang sinabi ng dating senador at sinabing wala silang natatanggap na impormasyon kaugnay nito. Una nang nanindigan ng PNP na hindi nito ihahain ang anumang warrant of arrest galing sa ICC dahil wala itong jurisdiction sa bansa. Yan ang balita sa oras na ito. Sa All TV News, una ang tama at totoo. Sundar mga balita sa All TV News PH sa Facebook. Manatiling nakatutok sa All Radio 103.5. Ako, si Michelle Giliang.
On Wish 107.5. 107.5 News Update. Good morning. Here's a rundown of the top stories of this hour. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. extends his well wishes to former U.S. President Donald Trump moments after learning of the alleged assassination attempt against him. Incoming Education Secretary Sani Angara says he planned to discuss adjustments on job qualifications with the Civil Service Commission to cater to senior high school graduates. Speaker Ferdinand Martin Romualdez says the House of Representatives is ready to take swift and decisive action to ensure the approval of the 6.352 trillion peso budget for 2025 and other priority bills before the end of September. A low turnout plebiscite in Tupi, South Cotabato concludes with a victory for the establishment of a new barangay. Disaster responders in Datu Hofer Town, Maguindanao del Sur confirm rescuing 10 families from danger on Saturday amid rising flood waters spawned by continuous heavy rains since Friday afternoon. The U.S. U.S. Secret Service reports that former President Donald Trump is safe following the shooting incident during former U.S. leader's rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, USA at around 6:15 U.S. Eastern Time. And the Federal Bureau of Investigation names the shooter in the assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. Those are the latest at this hour. Stay tuned for the next news update at 8:15 a.m. here on Wish 107.5. 107.5 News Update. Wish.